Welcome to the show, Abe. For those who don't know, Abe just launched a Kickstarter for an app for phones on iPads, I'm guessing, called FilmLab. So, Abe, welcome. Tell us more about your project.
Thanks, Nico. I'm happy to get to talk to you. FilmLab is a smartphone app for scanning and converting film. And the background of it is that I've been shooting and developing my own film at home. And like a lot of people, I was frustrated by how slow and complicated it was to scan my film. A lot of times I just wanted a quick way to look at it. So I've been playing around with things like putting my iPhone into reverse mode so I could get a preview of what my negatives would look like. You know, the color negatives are kind of blue. And using a macro lens attached to my camera to try to get a close-up. So actually, for a while, was taking two close-up photos with a macro lens and trying to use image stitching software to put them together. So I've been playing around with things like that, but I really wish there was just software specifically designed for using your phone with negatives. And I checked the App Store every few months to see if anybody had built it. And I'm a software developer, so finally I decided to try it myself.
Okay. I do know there's a few apps that kind of invert, but they're not as user-friendly and maybe not as intuitive as yours are. Like yours is pre-beta or beta, alpha, whatever name people call it, in development. So the people will watch your videos on your Kickstarter or your website. I checked it on your YouTube too. So the idea is you grab your phone, you put it on a light source, LED or fluorescent, as we were talking before, will probably hopefully work, as I have a fluorescent light table, sorry. And then people just check the image, you just straight up see it, you check it, you focus in it, and you just decide, okay, that's the one, and you shoot. And it basically takes 8 multiple pictures or something like that, and it makes one file.
I'm still figuring out how to get the best quality, but the idea is that one of the reasons that I think it's possible to get more useful scans today than it would have been possible a couple years ago is that newer phones support RAW capture. So when you shoot JPEG, the algorithm that's converting the RAW to the JPEG is designed for like pictures of people and things, and it likes to smooth out small details and assume that all noise is bad. And none of that works well for capturing film where you want to preserve the grain. So what I'm doing is taking a whole bunch of raw images as quickly as possible and then trying to combine them all to take out the digital noise and get as much detail as you can given the limitations of the phone camera.
Okay, so it's like a burst. Like you just snap and it's just like a burst of a few pictures that will come into one frame. Then it converts, if it's color negative, it converts it to color positive, an image. It does it on its own. It just distinguishes the different films. Like it does slide, color negative, and black and white.
Yeah, it attempts to. There definitely will have to be a manual override because there's no way to make that 100% accurate. You could have a slide photo of a piece of negative film.
Yeah.
In theory. So if it has the orange cast that looks like negative film, it's going to assume that it is, but there will be the ability to manually override.
Yeah,
that.
It might think if it's like sunset and it's all orange, it might think, oh wait, that's a negative film, and you got to say no, that's positive.
Right.
Okay. I've been seeing that it would shoot the negative border on it or without it. Will you be able to implement a different change so people can shoot and scan on the app so it looks like I shot film, I didn't crop, or just because they like the look of it?
Yeah, what I think my goal is to have good manual controls and to kind of give people the same kind of manual controls they would have had in a darkroom. So control over exposure, control over the color cast. The way my software works, it's actually like simulating the effects of yellow and magenta filters. Like you use to control the color in a darkroom. And I also plan on giving you the ability to select scanning or keeping the full sprocket hole border, just a little bit of black border, or to crop it out entirely and have a clean image.
And in that kind of same question with the border, I always tend to think of the different films and borders. So what will be the film formats it will be able to scan Like I've seen 35 and 120 film, but will it be able to do, for example, expand shots or maybe 4x5s or things? Or there's like a limit to what can be done with the app?
No, I'd like to be able to do as much as possible. Size-wise, I don't think there should be any limits on like the size that you can scan, as long as you can fit it onto your light table. Another thing I've thought about is people who shoot half frame, being able to shoot 2 frames together.
Yeah.
And I actually have a bunch of half frame shots that I took a few years ago. So none of these things are very challenging technically. It's just about building a user interface that gives people the control to do the things they want.
Yeah, kind of like selecting, okay, it's going to be half frame, like let me shoot those 2, because a lot of people shoot half frame kind of doing a story, you know, 1 frame goes next to the other one. Okay.
So you actually want to get the 2 together in one image.
Okay. Also, I've seen and read that you will be able to like shoot on your DSLR or, well, digital camera and with a macro lens or whatever system people use, because people have gone crazy with this digital scanning with a camera. And import it into your app and just use the, I guess, color science to shift it to a normal picture.
Yeah, I can use the same image processing engine in the app, so it can recognize, find the film frame, and process it using the same settings and convert negative to color, and you can still have the manual control over the output. And I actually think, or hope that for people who are like really serious about archiving their film as digital, I think it's a good solution to say you should save an image of just the negative and separate that from the process of converting it to a positive, because then you can reprocess it another way in the future as the software improves, or if you want to use different settings just like you would with a print. It kind of separates the output from the raw data that you're capturing.
Yeah, but maybe in a few years' time, like someone develops a new how do you call it, plugin for Photoshop that works great or something. You have your negative, and you can use your app to have a positive to share or something like that. So another question in the film regarding, and then I'll go to something else. Will it be able to do, for example, instant film, as it's a huge market or users nowadays, people with the Instax, which is great. You have a tangible thing, but maybe you want to send it to someone. So will it be able to do those Polaroid looking or Instax film?
I think that's something that I wouldn't have in my short-term plans. I know there are apps out there that are designed to do that already. So I'm pretty much just focused on like transparent sources for the moment.
Okay. No, I know there's a Google app that I found out that not a lot of people know about that kind of maps the Polaroids and old prints, and it kind of does a pretty okay job. I've tried it. It doesn't work so well.
I haven't had a chance to try it. I was reading the team that did that wrote an interesting article about like some of the image processing techniques that they use, but I haven't tried the app myself.
Another thing I think is interesting to point out that maybe people are concerned is I read that you are able to correct if the phone's not perfectly aligned. Like, I guess as you take multiple images, it has the space to kind of convert if you're not perfectly on top of the negative, because people get like enlargers and put digital cameras so they're flat and everything's so like important. It's not so important with your app.
Well, I think there's a couple things there. One is like ultimate image quality, and if you want ultimate image quality, the flatter the better. So you can have everything perfectly where you have the maximum focal point. But there's also just a matter of convenience. And if you're doing something quickly, it's hard to be like 100% perfect. And depending on your settings, like if you're shooting with a macro lens and you have enough depth of field, it's kind of nice to not have to be like perfectly aligned, to just let the software do that for you. And then if you're just looking at your negs on a light table, it's really nice for your phone to not have to hold it right over the image that you're looking at.
You kind of just have to point it, and it kind of like reads through the light table. It reminds me of that augmented reality kind of thing, you know, like it sees them and you pick them and it kind of pops up.
Yeah, it's that same thing, which was fun to work on. I'd never done a software project using that before, so I've been learning a lot.
Okay. So now we got kind of covered what you have to do and what you will get. I've seen that your Kickstarter is, once the app is launched, it's going to be a subscriber based. I've seen a few people commenting on your Kickstarter about, the model of, I understand that's not easy to find a perfect match for everybody. And also you, because you're doing this because you kind of want to make this and you make a
Right.
living making software. So it's not like you're doing this, apart from doing it for fun, now you've taken it the next step, which is trying to make it for, make money out of it, basically.
Yeah, and I'd say my goal is to be able to sell a good product at a good price and to find a model that works for people and doesn't annoy them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the traditional way of selling software, where you could have a free trial, you charge a fair fixed price for your app, and then later when you did version 2.0, you could have an upgrade price for users. I think that was actually great, and I wish it was still that way. And I don't really understand why, particularly Apple, is not supporting that kind of model on their App Store. So I'm basically trying to navigate a way where I can let people experience the app
Mm-hmm.
and decide if it works for them before they have to buy it. I think it's a lot to ask people to pay, 10 or 20 or more dollars for an app that they've never even gotten to use before. And I understand why people don't want to do that. So what appeals to me about the subscription model is you can have a free trial where people can download it, use it on their phone, and then decide if they want to keep it going forward. But I definitely want to make it work well for people who are the heaviest users and not make them feel like, reaching in their pocket every month to take out more money.
Well,
so I hope that I can figure out a good solution in the long term.
I have to say, to defend your model, I used to develop my own color film and scan it too at home, and I very much dislike scanning. I think we're in the same place, you and me. But now I send it to a lab, and the labs charge, at least here in Spain, which is where I'm at, they're 14 to 15 euros, which is around almost $17 to $20. And considering that your app is $1.99 or $1.80 or I don't know, I can't remember, around $2 a month is the idea price. That would be so cheap considering I shoot around 20 to 30 rolls a month. If I had to develop those films and scan them at a proper lab, it would be way more of a year budget of your app. So I would take it to myself as, that's another question I would do, is who do you think would be the users? But I would be a very much sporadical, scan my film with your app, and the frames I'm really interested in, maybe send them to a lab or get them properly scanned or drum scanned, or maybe myself with my scanner, which I don't use a lot, and I just put it in there and I'm like, I'm going to really work on this one, or the same thing in the darkroom. So I think it's cheap enough for that. And if you want to scan for social media, that's pretty good too.
Yeah, I hope that it can be, like you said, especially being limited by App Store policies. I'm not sure if there's going to be a pricing model that works perfectly for everyone, but I hope that I can make it a fair deal. Mm-hmm. Some people have said, well, why don't you make it like an in-app purchase where you have to buy some number of scans? But that feels like it gets expensive for people who are using it a lot, and I don't want to be like nickel and diming people who are heavy users.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll just have to see how it goes in the long term. But I buy software too, and I understand how it can be annoying when the licensing model feels like it's not working well for you. So I'm going to try my best to make it work for people.
Okay, well, I think I'm totally. I mean, I supported your Kickstarter. I was backer 119, which was funny.
Oh, thank you.
You took a screenshot of 118, and I was the next one, so that was funny. And I will try to probably use it. I also was talking to a friend about talking to you today, and I was like, also people can subscribe, like holidays. People tend to shoot a lot more film during the hot weather because you go out a lot more. You take the family out or friends trips. You can subscribe to your monthly fee, scan those pictures to social media or whatever you want to do, and then just unsubscribe. So it's not that bad in the end. So I hope it works, basically.
Thank you. Oh yeah, and the other piece of it that I'm planning on doing, and I should put this on my Kickstarter page. There's a lot to communicate, and I'm just still kind of getting up and running with it. But what I'd like to do, if possible, is make it so the app is free. And you get the live preview mode that's kind of like a digital loop, so that can be something that like any photographer can just have in their pocket and be ready to use all the time. And it's only for like the scanning and capture and conversion features that you have to subscribe.
Yeah, like a light version that you can just use to preview your pictures, and then if you're like, oh, I really want to take it, you can pay for the app that would work for scanning properly and saving it.
Yeah, and that way, if you're a high school kid and you don't have any money and you want to just take a screen cap of your scan and send it to your friends, like that's cool.
Okay.
And I'd also like to make it. I haven't like fully researched what's possible through the app stores, but I'd like to make it free or discounted for educational programs too, because I think it's the kind of thing. There's a lot of programs now that are still using film photography in schools, which I think is awesome, and I'd love for the kids to be able to use FilmLab.
Oh, that sounds good. You actually, I don't know if you know, the FPP podcast have
I
like
love the FPP.
I know, I love it too. You should try to contact them because they have like a school collaboration, and maybe you can at least, source something or talk to them. I'm sure they'd probably be happy to talk about your Kickstarter and the whole idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Actually, I sent Michael Rosso an email yesterday, and I told him when I was recording my Kickstarter video, I felt like I was impersonating him because I've probably heard him say the word film more than anybody else.
Yeah, probably.
Every time I say film, I feel like I'm speaking the voice of Michael Rosso.
Yeah. I understand the student, and that's probably a great idea if there's a way to make, people that are studying or have a student card can get like a discount or free time or something like that. But back to a few questions. How do you find the color science? Because I know one of the main features people complain when they self-scan is that the lab scans are so good because I guess Fuji and Kodak owned the film, the whole chemistry behind it and the science. So how hard has it been to, break it down to getting good results?
It's funny you mentioned that because I've had to learn a lot about it, and I'm still not completely there yet, but I've been reading like old Kodak spec sheets and trying to understand how it worked. And initially I was just kind of trying to automatically do what I was doing in Photoshop with like inverting and messing with the curves. But now I'm actually trying to emulate what happens in a darkroom. So an important piece, and one of the reasons that it's important to be able to capture raw, is that you want to basically know like exactly how much light was coming through the original image without that being modified by software. And then you can take that and model what the response curve of the paper would be for the RGB channels, and then figure out what the output density would be, and then figure out how much light would reflect off a piece of paper that had that density, and that gives you your final image. So that piece is mostly working right now. The automatic color balance and auto exposure, which is a whole nother thing to implement, is still a little iffy. So I'm still getting color casts in some of my images. In an ideal, like perfect simulation, you would actually be able to use FilmLab with a specific paper emulation and kind of figure out ahead of time before you went into the darkroom what kind of exposure and filters you're going to need, and then it would give you a good starting point for that if it was like perfectly accurately emulating. I'm not sure whether it'll be able to get to that point, but that's the kind of direction I'm trying to head in.
Okay, yeah, kind of like saves time because I'm a darkroom user, so I'm going to use your app to preview, send a few snaps to my family members and be like, which print do you want? And I'll use that for that, and maybe social media sometimes. But yeah, I think that's a great tool as a hybrid, use your phone, which is easy. Like we all have been inverting, like you said at the beginning, and doing that quick preview, but now being able to really take a picture and send it through WhatsApp or iMessage or any of this, and getting those instant feedback from family or friends and being like, print that picture. You go to the darkroom and you're there, or you just do it. So yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I hope like FilmLab can fit into people's photography life. Is like, it's not about replacing anything really. Like it's certainly not replacing the darkroom. It's not replacing like a ProLabs Frontier scanner or a drum scanner or even a Epson flatbread scanner. But it just felt like there was a missing space for just a simple, easy to use tool that would cover certain needs. And that's where I hope FilmLab can be a nice addition.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people have been comparing the whole like, oh, lab will give you better results. I like to hear that that's just, you're going to be like a step between not having much more than to invert and the lab proper scans, there's going to be FilmLab's going to be there. It's probably, I think it'll be a good one for sharing. I think it's really fun. And a lot of people just post on Instagram or Facebook, and it's going to be good enough, I think, for that kind of use. So,
yeah, I'm going to push the image quality as far as I can, as far as what comes out of phones. And who knows, in a few years, as phone cameras continue to improve, what kind of quality you'll be able to get. But for now, it's pretty satisfying, actually, because I really started building this for myself. And lately, I've started posting some photos to my Instagram account that I scanned with FilmLab, and it's really nice to have it working.
I'll leave your Instagram on the screen when I edit this, and also on the description with the Kickstarter, cool. Just in case, because someone doesn't know how to use Google, just in case.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
I think you got to go, so I don't want to keep you busy more time after our connection trouble. And so thanks for being with me. Is there anything else you would like to add that maybe someone is curious or you have kept away from the Kickstarter yet or something like that?
Boy, that's a good question. I can't think of anything right now. I will say there's a lot of stuff still under active development, and so I'm hoping to be able to share some interesting progress. In particular, I'm working on improving my raw conversion even further from where I have it today. So if you follow me on Instagram or you follow the Kickstarter project, sometime before the project is over, I hope to be able to share some even improved quality over where it is now.
Okay. I know that you're already almost halfway through your Kickstarter goal, so I think you're going to make it. And if anyone wants to check it out, as I said, I'll leave it in the description. I will have to say thank you for being with me today, and the viewers that will watch this after. And good luck with your app and your film photography. And I hope you don't stop shooting film, because then we're all screwed after, we'll have to remember to cancel our subscriptions if you decide to go digital or something like that.
No, I think I'm staying with film for the long haul at this point. Well, thanks, Nico, for having me. It was really nice to talk to you.
Thanks to talk to you too. And we'll see how the Kickstarter goes. Maybe we'll talk in a year and talk about how it went.
That sounds great. I'd love to be back.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.